All right, Ambush, and today we are rejoined by a country pop artist. From the last time that she joined us, she told us the tale of the California King. And now she's fixing up the old Pinto. She is heading out on a journey. She's hitting the road. Pinto is the name of the new upcoming album. I guess by the time you're hearing this interview, it'll already be out. Either way, it's the name of the new album from our guest here today, Sykamore. How's it going today, Sykamore?
Things are good. How about you?
Ooh, I am doing a fantastic, having myself a lovely day. Even better now that I got to reconnect with a past guest.
Yeah, it's been a minute, hasn't it? In some ways, it feels like no time has passed. And then in others, it feels like that was another life ago. So
it was, I believe, the beginning of like when time froze for about 2 years there. I think it was April of 2020. So it's
like the OG lockdown, I think.
Yeah, it was back when like everybody was, trapped at home and not really sure what was going to be happening. It's been a ride.
It has been. It sure has. But it's good to be on the other side, hopefully, and looking towards some new album, new beginnings, new video interview.
Hey, and of course, like we said, you're fixing up the Pinto. You're hitting the road. Now that the world's opening back up, we're opening back up for shop. Of course, I need to sort of ask, where exactly does this road trip, this journey begin for Sykamore?
Well, Pinto started with the title track, a song called Pinto. I had just put out Self Medicine, which is my indie EP that I put out in 2018. And I was struggling for a minute to sort of figure out what my next body of work was going to be and what the message was going to be and just context and imaging and all that. And I didn't want to force it. And so I was writing a lot anyway, because I was living in Nashville and I had a publishing deal. So I'm still living there now, but I ultimately, at some point, somebody told me the story of the Ford Pinto and how it has this sort of reputation for being a bit of a hazardous vehicle. And it has this kind of fundamental flaw in the front part of it, where like it started coming out that even if these cars got into little fender benders, if you tapped this one part of the car, maybe that's because the gas tank was in the front, or I don't know. But like it would cause any kind of spark or friction would cause the whole car to explode or to catch on fire. And so
I did not know this.
When I heard that, I think eventually they recalled, that model and had to rethink it. But when I heard that, it was sort of a metaphor to me of what your first love is a lot like. It's very explosive and kind of intoxicating and, just very combustible in a lot of ways. And when I could draw that sort of comparison, I thought it might be a cool song to try to like illustrate this image of maybe a young couple and maybe the guy's got this old car from his dad and that they go cruising around in it. And it's sort of this metaphor for their love and for their life. So I wrote this song and I ended up being just really heavily inspired by it. And even I wrote it on acoustic guitar, but I already knew how I wanted it to sound. I wanted a lot of 80s pop synthesizers. And like, I wanted it to be very cheesy, like it's very kind of teenage love story, classic 80s movie. And that ended up being sort of my muse for the rest of that year as I fleshed out the rest of this project. And it was sort of my focal point that I built everything around. And when I would bring new writers in, I would explain to them, like, this is the project and it starts with Pinto and we go out. And so it ended up sort of being the perfect sort of starting point as like a building block to just keep the record blossoming. And we went into the studio in 2019 and recorded it. And then of course it was supposed to come out in 2020. And it's been, it's slowly been coming out. Like we rolled out like a lot of singles and the EP and everything, but it will all officially be out on August 12th, 2022. So it's been a long road, no pun intended. And I'm just excited for people to hear it.
It's like you said, it's been quite the journey. 2-3 years now that finally getting to this moment here. So I need to ask exactly that. Now that it's you've had to postpone it, probably waiting to find out when is the right moment to do all of this. Like every one of us, we've had to adapt and
Yeah.
shift our lives and otherwise. So now that like this moment's finally here, it's like you're on the precipice of like actually releasing this album. What does that feel like?
I feel not a ton of fear, actually. I kind of felt like I would be a little more afraid, maybe because most of it is out and I already feel like people have a pretty good vibe for like what it's going to sound like. I think there's always a bit of fear when you make a big departure, from maybe what your core audience is expecting or used to. But this time around, it's just sort of all happy, anxious, like I'm anxious to put it out for it to no longer be mine and for it to be something other people can see their lives in and just apply to themselves. I'm mostly just really excited. And to be honest, I'm already working on the next record. So I'm just kind of like, I want this to get out so people can experience it with me and we can have that moment. And then I can just sort of deep dive and go into what's next. And it's been really interesting because I feel like a lot of artists are sort of backlogged now because like, you had projects that maybe you waited to put out because of the pandemic, but then in the meantime, you're working on other stuff. And so you're almost like one album behind now, but I'm still so into the songs and the music. And I can't wait for everyone to hear the whole thing as it was sort of meant to be as a body of work.
Mm-hmm. No, it's like I like how you put that there, where it's sort of just like you have that backlog where you're waiting and you have all these new things. Because as songwriters and even as people, like we continue to live life, we continue to put down like what our emotions are, what these things feel like, or what inspires us. So like through this time, like everybody has like built up and so much. So I mean, you also sort of like worded it earlier that like sort of like this part of the journey is sort of like coming to an end and like another journey is sort of beginning. I'm not sure if that's exactly how you said it, but
yeah, no, that's the sentiment behind it for sure. It's like that is something that feels surreal because I've been building this up for 4 years almost, since the day I wrote Pinto. Mm-hmm. I've been like, I can't wait to see how this actually develops and how it is in my head versus how it's going to be received by people and how it's actually going to look. And that's sometimes the funnest part is the sharing and the collaborating with people who enjoy it. So I guess this is kind of the final act, which is so weird. And, but it's the best part. So I'm really excited.
Hey, we are getting to that final act, like you say. And of course, with it has come some more tracks. We've covered the EP, like you mentioned, it's a part of it. But there's been more music that has come our way. And even just listening to some of these singles earlier today, you can sort of see how that story begins to weave and shape through. I mean, Dancing in the Dark, you definitely, once again, get that like traveling vibe from it and otherwise. So that's definitely exactly what you were trying to do, is just carrying this theme of this story through these singles then, hey?
Yeah, like there is definitely a common thread in this album where, like I said, illustrations can be drawn back to kind of riding in the car on a road trip. And a lot of these songs work really well in that setting where you got the windows down and you're kind of a free spirit and you're just kind of letting the stuff just resonate. And yeah, songs like Dancing in the Dark or even Just for July, they were in some, I think unconsciously a little bit designed to be listened to in that sort of context. So I'm happy people are picking up on it a little bit because sometimes the song just gets better in the car. I don't know what it is. It's like maybe just stereo system or some songs. I've heard some songs need air and you have to roll the windows down and let that oxygen just come in. So
see, that's a nice way to put it. The other way I've heard is a car or a song needs to be able to pass the car, like the drive test before you can put it out.
It's so funny because we've been working, I've been pitching songs for a new album, and I showed one to my manager and he was honest with me and he was like, at first I didn't get it, but then I listened to it in the car and I was like, now I get it. Like the song needs to be listened to. So some songs just need that. I don't know what it is, but yeah, that was a big sort of kind of secret theme throughout Pinto is I want it to be kind of the ultimate road trip mix.
And like 6 months from now, you'll just have a slew of TikToks of people just driving all over the place.
I mean, that's the hope. That's always what you hope, is that, these songs, they start out as mine and mine and my co-writers, and then you want them to go and take on stories of their own. You want them to weave into other people's lives and have different meaning for whatever people want them to be. And so that's my hope, is that people start mirroring back their experiences with the songs.
Yes, telling you all about their combustible first loves.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to see no cars blow up or anything. That's not the point. It's all very metaphorical.
No vengeful relationships, please.
No. We're good there.
We can be friends with our exes, I swear.
Yeah, totally.
Oh my goodness. And of course, you also mentioned Just for July, which you recently released a Visualiser for.
Yeah, that was very fun. So I was back in Alberta at the time, and we decided kind of on a whim that we wanted just some kind of visual element for the song, because it's sort of our focus track at the moment. And growing up in Alberta, there's kind of no shortage of really beautiful outdoor landscape, and there's quite a variety of it. And so, I kind of went back and forth. I was like, I think we should do it outside because it's summer and it's July 1 that it's coming out, and it's so beautiful out. And there's a place in Alberta called Drumheller, and a lot of it is kind of badlands landscape. And they've actually dug up a lot of dinosaur bones and fossils there. And so it looks very desert badlands, like in some ways almost Joshua Tree-esque. And I can't think of a ton of people who have used that background for a lot of their videos. And I was like, it's so cool and so beautiful and unique that I think we need to shoot there. So I got a good friend of mine who's a filmmaker, and we didn't really have much of a treatment. We kind of just, we got together on the day. He had some assistants carrying lights and stuff. And we kind of just like meandered around in the canyon, in Horseshoe Canyon outside Drumheller, and just tried to make something look cool. And we had some drone shots, and, it was all very kind of just flying by the seat of our pants. And it ended up being really cool in the end. And I think it was really helpful to have that, just because we haven't had a ton of like Visualiser content up until now. And it was really fun to do. So yeah, it was great.
I'd say it, the background definitely added, it made for an amazing video. So great choice.
Thanks. Yeah, I felt like it was, you get a really good view of the canyon, and just, I'm always a big champion of my province. I'm a very vocal Canadian. Like, most of my Instagram at this point is just me griping about the NHL. And so, like, anytime I can feature something from my hometown or something from my home country, it's going to happen. So I was really glad to get to have the chance to do it.
Just based on seeing your Instagram, you are a Flames fan, correct?
I am, and I'm sort of in mourning because they've really broken up the band this summer in terms of our top line. It's just, I don't know what to expect for the fall. We've acquired some really good players, but I don't know. I'm really going to miss, I have a Gaudreau jersey. So like, I'm really sad that that's now technically like a vintage jersey, but we'll see what happens. Maybe it'll be the best season ever.
Hopefully. I mean, you guys got close. So, I mean, your hope.
No one thought we would get past round 1, honestly. And so it was really, I remember when we beat Dallas, I guess. I was in California. We were playing a festival in Sacramento, and I made my band come with me to the hotel bar so we could watch the game because it was like the qualifier. And I think we won that one in overtime. And I was so ecstatic. It was the perfect way to kind of end our trip, because we left the next day, and it was just, I was going to be devastated if we lost, and then I had to fly back home. So yeah, I mean, we had a great season. I am not complaining at all, but I'm a little sad that our lines are going to look really different next season.
Hey, time will tell. Time will tell. Maybe it'll go a little bit further. Maybe it'll pay off.
Maybe. I mean, we've got some really good players from Florida now, so who knows?
Who knows? We'll see. And of course, you mentioned returning to the festivals there. So that's where I'll leave things off. Is you've been able to return to some festival stages. I know you've got Boots and Hearts coming up here. I know you got Lasso coming up here. What has it been like to get back on the festival stages here, Sykamore?
It's so scary, and then it's so fun. Like the anticipation kind of kills you. Like my least favorite part of any performance is the like 5 minutes before you go on stage, because you're antsy and you want it to start, but you also feel like you could just turn and run away any minute. Like it's a really weird psychological place to be. And then there's just always a rush of endorphins and just kind of positive energy as soon as you can get on the stage. As soon as you start feeling that energy from the crowd, like you're still not scared. You're still nervous, but it's more that you just care about making it good. But that voice gets so small because it's just crowded by all this positive energy. And then ultimately you just want to have fun. And like, so it's this weird two-phase thing for me where it starts out like you dread it. And then you get out there and you're like, oh yeah, this is really fun. And it happens every time. So I don't know if it'll ever change.
Hey, it's sometimes I've heard it's put as the being nervous means that you still care.
Exactly. I think nerves, like there's a good element to it because they kind of wake you up and they get you a little bit energetic for the crowd. And, obviously, yeah, like what you said, it means that you want to put on a good show. And I think if you're too relaxed, sometimes your energy kind of like, there's always this trade-off with the crowd where it's like your energy influences the crowd and then they influence you. And so if you're both hyped at the start, it can be this really amazing interchange of energy throughout. So yeah, I think a little bit of nerves is probably always good.
Yeah, absolutely. And of course, if you're a listener out here, go get yourself inside of a Sykamore crowd. Give her a little bit of energy. Get some.
Yes, sir. I like to think we have a fun show.
Pardon?
I like to think we put on a fun show. So yeah, make it out to Boots and Hearts or come to Lasso and see for yourself.
Hey, either way, go ahead and follow Sykamore on your favorite social media so you can stay up to date with upcoming music, tour dates, whatever it happens to be. You already heard it. There's going to be so much more going on inside of the future. And I thank you, Sykamore, for joining us here today to tell us the story of this new album, as well as, a little bit of what your future holds. Otherwise, for rejoining us here on the DTP.
Thank you.